Hey everyone, so I'm sure all of you have heard about the new generative AI model ChatGPT 3. It caused a big stir in AI communities because it's a really big leap forward. In this video, I want to comment on specifically how ChatGPT 3 affects the future of software development. So will there be future AI coders? And what is the future role for human coders in a world where potentially AI can code better than us? So to set the context, the consensus so far seems to be that ChatGPT 3 is a really powerful tool which can automate tasks and speed up learning, which is a part of the job, but it can't outright replace us. I agree with these statements, and I'll give my reasons later in the video. But before that, I think it would be helpful to clarify, what do people mean when they say ChatGPT 3 can code, quote unquote? So I've thought a lot about how to express this simply, and this is what I've come up with. So ChatGPT 3 can generate code implementations which accurately solve problems phrased in English. So you can ask it, write an API that does XYZ, or create a simple blog website in React, or you can ask it more of a systems design kind of question, which doesn't involve code, but more consultation. Is key value or relational better for databases that need low latency? And ChatGPT will look for a code snippet or piece of documentation which it thinks accurately solves your problem. And the key is it can do this really well at a level that's not seen before. It does not mean that it can replace human coders, at least not right now. The biggest problem is the error rate. So essentially, sometimes ChatGPT will give answers that sound believable and reasonable, but actually it's just wrong or off in some way. For example, it'll make a recommendation that is really inappropriate for the context, or it will answer correctly, but for a problem that's different than the one you asked. So say you ask ChatGPT, how do I change a commit message that's already been pushed to GitHub? And ChatGPT says you should use git reset. That is one acceptable answer, but a better way usually is to do git rebasing. But it's a lot more complex. Git rebasing by itself is something that takes a bit of time to learn, and it can result in some stressful situations. For example, let's say you're in the process of recommitting things and you stage an API key file, and you end up pushing this pretty sensitive information to the public repo. If you allowed ChatGPT to kind of do this free reign, that would have been a pretty disastrous situation. I'm not saying the error rate is particularly bad per se. It's something that happens really commonly in all of machine learning applications, but I'd say in software engineering, the error rate is really consequential. Software's functionality is really dependent on there not being these small mistakes, because small mistakes really make software bug out and be totally unusable. OpenAI is actually pretty explicit about this weakness, and so it says, for example, on their documentation, sometimes the model will just be wrong, and it's trained in a way where it tries to be more cautious when it's not really confident in an answer. So to wrap up, can ChatGPT code? Kind of. ChatGPT can currently really enhance developer productivity, but right now it cannot replace human coders for sure. Now, I want to make a prediction about how I think AI-assisted coding is going to evolve. My prediction is that data is the key factor for advancement in this area. So there's a lot of code out there, on GitHub, for example, but the mere presence of code doesn't actually help the model's accuracy. The model's behavior and responses need to be evaluated in response to some situational need. the answer and the response need to be associated somehow, whether it's through tagging, labeling, or some kind of feedback like a code review. There needs to be a set of like human code reviewers who are looking at ChatGPT's responses and also the question and saying things like, yes, this was a good implementation, and no, because there are these dependency errors, and when I tried to plug it in, this and this happened, right? OpenAI actually says this is how they train the model itself. And so this really underscores the need for like quality data as opposed to kind of advancement of the mathematical models that are already existing. Although that matters too, right? The argument is kind of that these models are already super capable of inference. They just need high quality data, like successful code completions and a record of the situational need, in addition to a record of how well that code completion performed. One other thing I want to share, like the way you ask the question is also really important, right? Because it can better triangulate the need and create a more customized, nuanced response. If you're on the OpenAI Discord, there's a channel that's called Prompt Engineering, which, as the name suggests, is specifically focused on how you can better ask the question. So maybe this is the future of the role of software engineers. Our job will be to kind of supervise the behavior of generative AI models that will do the majority of the coding, and we will selectively interfere whenever there's a mistake, and in doing so we both actually correct the problem to make sure the code like is functional in a production situation, and also we provide that critical feedback through which the model improves for the long term. And now I'm just going to take like a more lighthearted approach to this whole topic and just give some honest thoughts, right? So firstly, this kind of talking about this subject is, on one hand, I'm really glad that these tools exist, but it's also kind of uncomfortable because, you know, the advancement of these AI models in areas of coding ability are really like threatening my job security, right? Not to mention like sense of meaning in this world. You know, I should be doing something that's really helping humanity in some way. I always thought, it's kind of ironic to say, but I always thought like my ability to specialize as a knowledge worker were my strengths. So anyway, I'll leave it here on that note. ChatGPT and generative AI models are not, for the time being, going to replace human coders, but it is worth saying that new tech always seems primitive at the beginning. This was true of the actual like computer itself, you know, a computer on every person's desk. No one believed that in the beginning, right? To take another analogy, the same was said of game playing algorithms like AlphaGo. Chess algorithms were never thought to be able to defeat humans, and here we are, now they can. So that is to say that like you never really know what can happen. And I think there'll always be productive work, or just contributions that are valuable in the software engineering space. So I am not so concerned.